A very common question that I get a lot from students is that, ma'am, first reading I have done nicely. I studied all the concepts nicely. I solved all the questions. The second time when I'm studying the book, I'm not able to recall anything. I'm just able to recall maybe 10-20% of the material. Otherwise, I have to read it just like the first time. I have to read everything again. What is happening? I'm losing my confidence. So let's talk about this. Okay, this is a very common problem. Now, honestly, I don't think this is a problem. This is a very natural way of learning. Let's say you meet someone new and you start talking to a new person. Let's say they tell you their name and they tell you their address and they tell you their profession. Most likely, the next time you meet them, you might forget their name, you might forget their address, you might forget their occupation. This happens with everybody. Let's say they tell you again. The third time you meet them, chances are that you will still remember some details. You might not forget entirely. Okay, so this is just how learning happens. The first time you read an absolutely new book, new concepts, okay, you understand everything, you solve all the questions. Now here, if you read the second time, you will not recall everything. This is very natural. This has happened with me. This happens with all your teachers also, with even the rankers. The trick here is to understand and accept that this is natural. First, you have to accept that this will happen. There's nothing wrong with you. Now, what is the solution? How to proceed here? Second time when you read the material, nevertheless, even if you cannot recall anything, what you have to do is read the material again. Trust the process. The process says that if you have nicely studied the first time, somewhere at the back of your mind, these concepts are still there. They are not evaporated. Read again as if it's the first time you're reading. Don't just open the book, open the chapter and try to recall these things. You will not remember anything. Oftentimes we don't even remember what we ate yesterday, what we ate last week. How do you expect to remember concepts that you studied 2 weeks or 1 month ago? Okay, you will not. What you have to do is read the material again. Trust the process. Now, when you start reading these concepts again the second time, what is going to happen? You will be very unconscious about it, but I'm telling you this is going to happen. First, your reading speed will be better than the first time you read. The first time when you read that book, it might have taken you 6 minutes or 7 minutes per page. Now you might need only 3 to 4 minutes per page. First, your speed will increase. Why? Because deep down, your mind knows this concept, knows this book, knows this font, knows this text, knows the underlining part. This is very unconscious, but you have to relax and be aware of this. Second thing that's going to happen is, as you read these concepts, the memory will come back. You will start feeling that these concepts are familiar. Okay, I know this. Okay. That's another good sign that whatever you studied in the first reading, it's still there. You did a nice job the first time you studied the subject. Okay, if these two things are happening, that means it's a very natural thing, natural process of learning that is taking place. You don't have to worry at all. All you need is time and patience. Okay, so have allotted time to revise nicely, read all the concepts again. If it is a practical subject, solve all the important questions that you have marked again with your own hand from start to the end without looking at the answer. Okay, this is how you have to complete the second reading entirely. Now, in the second reading, what is expected is, if it is a theory subject, let's say it's audit, or if it is law, or if it is strategic management, or even if it is a subject relating to law like taxation where there are provisions, or GST where there are provisions. Now these subjects, they require you to learn the concepts also, because in the exam you will have to reproduce these provisions again as it is. You'll have to reproduce the provisions of law, of audit, of taxation. For that, remember, the first time you read it, simply read, understand the concepts and solve the questions to understand the application of these concepts. In the second reading, you have to do active recall technique. Extremely important. In the second reading, you have to do active recall technique for theory subjects, which means that you will read the concept of law, then you will put your hand on it, and then you will recall, you will say it orally, all the provisions that you just read. Then read the second concept, again put your hand on it, then recall the provisions that you've just studied. Same you have to do with law, same you have to do with tax, same you have to do with GST also, and all the other theory subjects. So in the second reading, we have to try to memorize the concepts, the timelines, the penalties, the deadlines, etc. So in case in the second reading you're not able to recall things, don't worry, it's a very natural thing that happens. Do not worry and still read again, and things will start getting stored in your mind. In the third reading, again you will be able to naturally recall 50% of the portion. 50% again you will not be able to recall, but it's okay, again very natural. Nevertheless, read the material again. After the second reading, please start solving exam papers, revision test papers, mock papers. कितने पानी में हो तुम्हें पता चलेगा. Take up exam papers only if you have just revised the subject. Okay, then only you will be able to solve the paper, then only you will be able to properly assess if you remember these concepts or not. Randomly, again, if you take up an exam paper and you start solving it, and that subject you had studied 1 month ago, you will not remember anything. Okay, so please don't do these kind of stunts. Please don't. Take up exam papers only if you have just revised the subject. I hope your query is solved. I want you to see this video next because it's going to help you a lot.